What's up, everybody? It's your boy Rob. You see how I'm dressed? I just came from outside. It's snowing. I was shoveling. I hate it. Anyhow, I want to talk about the Galaxy S20, and let's have a conversation. Let's, me and you, let's talk about it. I think a lot of problems people are having, if you're on that crossroads of whether or not you should get the phone or just wait for it or not get it at all. So let's look at it from this point of view. Let's say you have last year's S10, the Plus, or even the 5G variant. In my opinion, there's no way, shape, or form you should take the dip into trying to get this phone, especially with what you probably paid for the phone last year. So with that in mind, that's going to be a lot of money. That turnaround within a year to now to a phone that's, I think it's $100 difference just for some under the hood type upgrades. I don't know if it's worth it to you. The display technology is pretty much the same. You're not really breaking any ground with the display. It's going to be made from the same materials, so you're not breaking any grounds with the materials. So the question is, unless you have some kind of like T-Mobile jump program, or you got some way, whether you pay the phone off all outright, and you're doing one of those trade-ins, that's something you got to make the decision in your gut on whether or not trying to get this the S20 is a good move. Now, we all know Samsung have a history, and they tend to do things like buy one, get one free, which essentially make the phone half of what it's actually worth. You can wait for those. There's also the price reduction. You can wait for those. There's also things like a swapper or second market sellers. And usually people who bought the phone outright are trying to sell them. And we all know that Samsung phones really don't hold a lot of value. And then you got to take into account another reason you may want to wait until next year is that the 5G networks that all the carriers have are not completely ready to go. The top of the line 5G mmV wave that Verizon have is good, but it can't penetrate walls or other materials that may block the signal. And T-Mobile's 5G, which is ran on a lower frequency, it's just a tad better than the best 4G out there. So 5G ain't quite ready for prime time. The phones are, but the networks aren't. So that's another thing to consider. And again, if you're coming from a much older phone, do you want to take that dip into the $1,200 range or $1,000 range, whereas the last phone you may have bought, if it was a flagship, probably cost under $900, $800. So, there are so many variables going around on whether or not you should get it or whether or not you should just buy the S10 and S10 Plus. This is one of those transition years. Let's be real about it. This is one of those transition years where being the first in line may not be worth it this year. So that's something to consider. Again, everything is still up in the air for me. Like I said, it's kind of weird that tech YouTubers, we are all considered early adopters, but this may not be the year to be an early adopter. For the price, it may not be worth it. As far as the 5G technology, it may not be worth it. And with what's going on in the industry with mid-range phones are really starting to take a foothold in the public's eye. This is like a transition year. It's pretty weird to actually want to step out there and be the first to have get a Samsung phone, unless you're on some kind of like I said, some kind of program or something. It's really not worth it. So I'm still debating. To be an early adopter at a $1,200 price range is something that's could be a pretty tough decision for me to make personally. I can't make it for you. You go by how your guts feel and what you think is something you may want to do. I'm just going to lay out a few reasons why I think I may pass on the Galaxy S20. I may pick it up later in the year unless there's like an out of the world deal, or if they're giving great trade-ins on previous old Samsungs. You know, I have a few Samsungs that are paid off. I have a Note 9, you know, that I'm not quite using as much. And if they're offering some pretty good trade-ins that can make it a much more palatable purchase to be an early adopter on 5G technology, then I may take the plunge. But day one, I don't think so. So that pretty much does it for the video. You guys let me know what you think. Leave your opinions and comments down below on the new S20. Is it worth taking it, the first dip in to 5G, or is it better off? Is the price keeping you from getting it? What are the things that are keeping you from actually going out and getting this phone? Especially when you got things like the Note 10 Lite and the Galaxy, is it going to be the S10 Lite? You got a lot more newer phones out there at a better price point, or is it just the lack of features that's keeping you from taking the dip? So again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Leave all your comments down below, and I'll catch everybody next video. I got to go back out for some more snow. I'm out. Bye.